Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of the Brazos Valley, UUCBV, or Brazos UU for short. My name is Brian Lockridge, and I am serving as your worship assistant today. I come to this church because I believe in the power of community and the power of Unitarian Universalism to strengthen this community to impact the world we live in. We are a welcoming congregation, which means we celebrate and welcome all people of diverse sexual orientations and gender identities. We also strive to welcome people across diversities of race, age, ability, immigration status, and belief. We are also a congregation working for reproductive justice. So, whoever you are, wherever you have come from, wherever you find yourself on life's journey, you are welcome here.
Our call to worship today is a quote by Antonio Brown. The journey is never ending. There's always going to be growth, improvement, adversity. You just got to take it all in and do what's right. Continue to grow. Continue to live in the moment.
Please say our chalice lighting words with me. We light the chalice, the symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith, as a beacon of hope for all who seek justice, dignity, and compassion, and in celebration of the life of truth and meaning we share together. Now, all please join me in saying our affirmation. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its gift. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
Take 4.5.
No, this is take 5 after
Take
4.
5, she says. All right, we're take 5. You heard Cora. All right, come on. You ready? I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river in my soul. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river in my soul. I've got joy like a fountain. I've got joy like a fountain. I've got joy like a fountain in my soul. I've got joy like a fountain. I've got joy like a fountain. I've got joy like a fountain in my soul. I've got love like an ocean. I've got love like an ocean. I've got love like an ocean ocean, I've got love like an ocean. I've got love like an ocean in my soul. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river in my soul. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river in my soul.
Our Time for All Ages this week is called How Anna Won the Argument, and it comes from the Ant Farmers and Other Stories. One bad year in a faraway land, there was a terrible drought. A drought is a time when there is no rain. The soil grew hard and dusty, and the crops withered under the sun. Very little food grew for the people, and they were hungry. They harvested what they could, and in the spring they planted their few seeds in the dry soil and hoped for a better harvest. The next summer, it was the exact opposite from the year before. It rained and rained all summer long. The rain flooded the fields and drowned the crops. And because the ground was so hard, the rain caused terrible floods that swept away the people's homes. And the people grew hungrier. But they did what they could to rebuild their homes, and they planted the few seeds that they had and hoped for a better year in the future. But the next year there was a terrible war, and some men from another land came and set fire to their fields. What little the people had grown was all burned up, and houses that they had rebuilt were burned up too. And many of the people realized they could stay there no longer. A woman in a village named Mira also decided that she would leave. She gathered up what few possessions she had. She gathered her 2 young children, and she called for their little dog, Barcus Aurelius. And they all began to walk north. Mira had heard that there was food in the land to the north and that they could make a safe home there. It was a long walk for Mira and her children. The sun was hot during the day. At night, they slept under the stars on the cold, hard ground with nothing but thin blankets, and Barcus curled up beside them. They didn't have much food, but they walked for days and days, Mira and her children. They walked north toward hope. Mira sang songs as they walked and told silly stories to keep her children smiling and laughing, even as they walked for so long. Sometimes Barcus would run in circles beside them or chase after the sticks because he was a good boy. But still, it was hard. One evening, after they had been walking for many days, Mira saw a light in the distance. It was a rainy night, and by now she and her children were cold and wet and hungry. Even Barcus's tails and ears had begun to droop, and the children were taking turns carrying him because his little dog legs were tired. The light in the distance was the twinkling of candles and a warm fireplace seen through the window of a humble cottage. This was the first home they had encountered in many days. Gathering up all of her courage, Mira led her children up to the cottage. She knocked on the door. A man with a gray beard opened it. Mira could see inside the house. There were very few possessions, but it was neat and clean and warm, and Mira could smell a pot of soup bubbling on the stove. "What do you want?" said the man suspiciously, staring at Mira and her 2 children. "Please, sir," said Mira, "my children and I have walked for many, many days from our land where there is no food, and we are cold and wet and hungry. Can we shelter here for one night?" The man said, "We have no room for strangers here." And he began to close the door. Now, as it happens, the man's wife and daughter were also in the house, and his wife began to argue. First, she said, "For goodness sake, we can't leave them out in the rain." The man said, "We don't know them. They could be robbers." The wife snorted, "They don't look much like robbers." The daughter, whose name was Anna, began to say, "Papa, you taught me." But the man and his wife said, "Anna, hush." And the man said, "If we let them in, how do we know that they won't let others in while we are asleep? Maybe the real robbers are just waiting for them to get inside and open the door." Anna said, "Papa, you taught..." But the man and his wife said, "Anna, hush." Now the wife looked worried. She said, "Well, give them some food at least." The man said, "If we give them some food, they'll tell the others. And before you know it, the whole countryside will be knocking on our door. We can't feed the whole world." Anna began again, "Papa, you..." But the man and his wife said, "Anna, hush." And they continued to argue. While the couple argued, Anna went very quietly to a window at the back of the room, opened it, and climbed out of the cottage. She lowered herself down to the wet ground. The man and his wife didn't see her because they were too busy arguing. Anna then snuck around to the front of the house. Finally, the man turned back to Mira and her children, still standing outside in the rain. "We have nothing here for you," he said to her, and began to shut the door. But to his surprise, he saw his daughter Anna standing in the rain beside them, shivering in the cold. She was holding their little dog, Barcus Aurelius, in her arms. "Anna," her dad said angrily, "put that dog down and come inside this instant." Anna said, "Papa, you taught me we are supposed to care for our neighbors as we care for ourselves. If you are going to shut the door on them, you must shut the door on your own daughter as well. There is only one way I am coming inside." Looking at his daughter, trembling with the wet and cold, the man became very ashamed of his behavior, and he opened the door for Mira and her children. Anna and Barcus came in with them. That night, they shared bread and soup inside the warm home, and there was enough for everyone. There was even a bone for Barcus.
A poem by Maya Angelou, A Brave and Startling Truth, Part 1. We, this people, on a small and lonely planet, traveling through casual space, past aloof stars, across the way of indifferent suns, to a destination where all signs tell us it is possible and imperative that we learn a brave and startling truth. And when we come to it, to the day of peacemaking, when we release our fingers from fists of hostility and allow the pure air to cool our palms, when we come to it, when the curtain falls on the minstrel show of hate and faces sooted with scorn are scrubbed clean, when battlefields and coliseum no longer rake our unique and particular sons and daughters up with the bruised and bloody grass to lie in identical plots in foreign soil. when the rapacious storming of the churches, the screaming racket in the temples have ceased, when the pennants are waving gaily, when the banners of the world tremble stoutly in the good, clean breeze. When we come to it, when we let the rifles fall from our shoulders and children dress their dolls in flags of truce, when landmines of death have been removed, and the aged can walk into evenings of peace, when religious ritual is not perfumed by the incense of burning flesh, and childhood dreams are not kicked awake by nightmares of abuse.
Tis a gift to be simple, 'tis a gift to be free, 'tis a gift to come down where we ought to be. And when we find ourselves in the place just right, 'twill be in the valley of love and delight, when true simplicity is gained. To bow and to bend we shan't be ashamed. To turn will be our delight, till by turning we come round right. 'Tis a gift to be simple, 'tis a gift to be free, 'tis a gift to come down where we ought to be. And when we find ourselves in the place just right, 'twill be in the valley of love and delight, when true simplicity is gained. To bow and to bend we shan't be ashamed. To turn will be our delight, till by turning we come round right.
A Brave and Startling Truth, Part 2. When we come to it, then we will confess that not the pyramids with their stones set in mysterious perfection, nor the gardens of Babylon hanging as eternal beauty in our collective memory, not the Grand Canyon kindled with delicious color by western sunsets, nor the Danube flowing its blue soul into Europe, not the sacred peak of Mount Fuji stretching to the rising sun, neither Father Amazon nor Mother Mississippi, who without favor nurture all creatures in the depths and on the shores. These are not the only wonders of the world. When we come to it, we, this people on this minuscule and kifless globe, who reach daily for the bomb, the blade, and the dagger, yet who petition in the dark for tokens of peace. We, this people on this mote of matter, in whose mouths abide cankerous words which challenge our very existence, yet out of those same mouths come songs of such exquisite sweetness that the heart falters in its labor and the body is quieted into awe. We, this people on this small and drifting planet, whose hands can strike with such abandon that in a twinkling life is sapped from the living, yet Those same hands can touch with such healing, irresistible tenderness that the haughty neck is happy to bow and the proud back is glad to bend. Out of such chaos, of such contradiction, we learn that we are neither devils nor divines. When we come to it, we, this people, on this wayward floating body, created on this earth, of this earth, have the power to fashion for this earth a climate where every man and every woman can live freely without sanctimonious piety, without crippling fear. When we come to it, we must confess that we are the possible, we are the miraculous, the true wonder of this world. That is when and only when we come to it.
Our prayer this morning comes from Shannon Long. Spirit of life, may we dig deeply, examine closely, speak truthfully, and work diligently, tirelessly, honestly, lovingly, empathetically, and continuously, so all among us feel welcome and loved. Shannon Long.
Hi, my name is Maya Lazarus, and it is my pleasure to give this talk this morning on Peace Pilgrim. She's a woman I very much admire and who you will learn about in a few minutes. But first, how many of you have heard of Peace Pilgrim? I bet less than 50% of the audience. Well, we're going to discuss this question of whether Peace Pilgrim was crazy or a saint. She lived from 1908 to 1981, and her real name was Mildred Norman. Well, Mildred grew up in South New Jersey, where they had a lot of egg farms at the time, and her family probably had one too. I know they had a farm. And when she was 8 years old, she learned about the Golden Rule and decided, being she was a very practical little girl, that the Golden Rule was really something great to follow. And so she did. And she also had another rule that she followed from very, very young, which was first things first. And she would follow those for the rest of her life. You know, she was the first woman to walk the 2,050-mile Appalachian Trail in one season. And she was a person who walked the talk and not just talked the talk. So she really walked what she believed in. She was married and divorced, no children. And one night she walked into the forest at night, just walking around. And she just had this strong feeling that she should spend her time doing service to others and giving. And so she walked out of the woods, and she did that for the next 15 years, helping people, volunteering in various organizations. And in 1952, she got this idea to be a Peace Pilgrim, and just to be called Peace Pilgrim and not be called by her name. And she decided she wanted to be a pilgrim and be a pilgrim for peace, for a cause. And so she had somebody make a tunic for her with little pockets in it, and she dressed in blue shirt, blue pants, and this is how you would always find her. And across her chest was written Peace Pilgrim, and on the back would tell the mileage, 5,000, 10,000, whatever she was walking. She also carried with her some things in her tunic, and these are the things she carried: a pen, a toothbrush, a comb, her correspondence, because she kept in communication with a lot of people, and a lot of people wrote to her, and she always answered them. And also a map. No money. She never carried any money. And her rule was that she would only eat if somebody offered her food, and she would only have shelter if someone offered her a place to sleep. She averaged about 25 miles a day, depending on how many people talked to her, because she had Peace Pilgrim written across her chest, and that really sparked people's curiosity, and they would come up to her and talk to her. Her message that she gave to them was, "This is the way of peace. Overcome evil with good, falsehood with truth, and hatred with love." So Peace Pilgrim started her walk on January 1st, 1953, and she reached 25,000 miles by 1964, and she stopped counting, but she kept walking for 17 more years until her tragic death. You know, sometimes in her first year of walking, before she got to be known, she was picked up for vagrancy a few times. And I would just like to read you a very small section from her book. "It was the first year of my pilgrimage, and I was somewhere along the highway between El Paso and Dallas when I was picked up for vagrancy. I have never heard of the FBI investigating people for vagrancy, but I was. A man in a black car stopped and showed me his badge. He didn't even demand that I come with him. He just said, 'Will you come with me?' I said, 'Oh, yes, I'll be interested in talking with you.' I got into his car, but first I scratched a large X on the highway where I had been picked up. During the time I was counting miles, if I left the highway, I would make a large X, then return to the spot to begin my walk anew." So what happened is that she was very kind to the man. She didn't get annoyed with him or anything. And while they were fingerprinting her, she was just fascinated. She'd never been fingerprinted before. So she started talking to the officer about the fingerprinting experience. And he started showing her all of what goes into doing the fingerprints and how you check them against other fingerprints to see if they match. She could always disarm people with no problem. Well, Peace Pilgrim believed in inner peace, and that inner peace leads to outer peace. And if more people had inner peace and harmony, there would be peace in the world. and that the inner peace allows harmony with everything that is, just connects you to everything. And she wrote a booklet, Steps Toward Inner Peace, and I ordered one for everyone who's interested. It should arrive tomorrow, and when we are in person again, I will share it with everyone. So, she walked 25,000 miles, as you can see, and she ended up in Washington, D.C. I'm just allowing you to read what it says. And as I said, she kept walking even after the 25,000 miles. She was quite an interesting person, and she just loved talking to people. And she said that people had such beautiful faces, and she would just see light around their faces. I have an affinity for Peace Pilgrim. I have an affinity for Peace Pilgrim. And I was fortunate enough to see the unveiling of her statue in the year 2000 when I was living in Costa Rica. At the Peace University, they had this unveiling, and I got to meet Peace Pilgrim's sister, Helene Young, who really helped Peace Pilgrim a lot over the years by collecting her correspondence at a P.O. box in New Jersey and sending it to wherever Peace Pilgrim was. Helene Young died recently, well, a year ago exactly, at the age of 105. And did I mention how Peace Pilgrim died? Well, she used to do a lot of speaking engagements when people got to know her, especially people who were in the field of peace. And on one of these occasions, she did allow people to drive her to speaking engagements. And she was being driven to this speaking engagement. I don't remember if she was being driven home or to the engagement, but she was in somebody's car in the front seat, and there was a head-on collision, and she died instantly. So sad, especially since she wasn't really one to like cars or to be in them. The next slide shows you some free material that you can get from Friends of Peace Pilgrim. They're very nice people. They give out free materials. They give out her book for free, videos, CDs, and quite a bit of material that they have is all free. And they have a Facebook page too that you can go to. So I conclude my talk with saying that we can continue during coffee hour, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you have, and we can discuss your opinion of the question that I posed at the beginning of the talk. Thank you very much. I thought you might enjoy seeing a video clip of an interview that Peace Pilgrim gave on a radio show that was sponsored by the Unitarian Universalist Church in Rockford, Illinois. This was her last interview before she died the next day.
How did you begin your pilgrimage? When did it begin? Let's start with that.
It began January 1st of 1953. It's my retirement project, and I finished counting the 25,000 miles toward the end of 1964. I have not counted miles since then. However, I will say that the real turning point in my life came 15 years prior to that, about 43 years ago, when I came out of my empty life of money and things and began to live to give instead of to get. Oh, it was just the most wonderful change in my life. My life just blossomed out. I remember 3 things happened. I attained the great blessing of good health. You know, I haven't had an ache or a pain or a cold or a headache since. I knew my life work was going to be work for peace, not only the outer peace, but the inner peace, which I talk about the most, because that's where peace begins. It's very good to know what your life work is, because then you can get busy on it. And the third thing, long after I had finished the physical growing up and I had finished the mental growing up, I had enough knowledge to get along. I could make my own decisions. And I had finished the emotional growing up. I could get along with people and with myself. I began the spiritual growing up, which takes you from the self-centered life into the life where you see yourself in proper perspective as part of the whole and work for the good of the whole. It was doing that growing and finding inner peace that prepared me for the pilgrimage that I walk today. And when I started out, my hair had turned to silver. My friends thought I had taken leave of my senses, but I walk on that endless energy that comes with inner peace. It never runs out. And of course, a pilgrim walks on faith. I have no money. I don't accept any money. I belong to no organization. There is no organizational backing behind me. And I own only what I wear and just the few things I carry in my little pockets. I just walk until given shelter, fast until given food. I don't even ask. It's given without asking. Aren't people good? You know, there's a spark of good in everybody. No matter how deeply buried, it's right there. It's waiting to govern every life gloriously. In fact, and this is something I would really like to emphasize, that spark of good is the real you. I identify with that. And I hope you do also, because when I say I'm not referring to the body. I'm just wearing that, nor am I referring to the self-centered nature. Now, your self-centered nature can be all mixed up and full of difficulties, but it's not the real you. I'm referring to the divine nature, the spark of good that I talked about. That is the real me, and that's what I mean when I say I. That is the real you, and that's what I see when I look at you. And that's why, to me, all people are beautiful. Now, a pilgrim walks not only prayerfully, but as an opportunity to contact people. And that's why I'm wearing my short tunic with Peace Pilgrim on the front and 25,000 miles on foot for peace on the back, because it makes my contacts for me in a very kind way. I don't need to approach people. They approach me. And my message, one sentence: this is the way of peace. Overcome evil with good, and falsehood with truth, and hatred with love. You see, it isn't new, just the practice of it would be new. But I consider it the lesson for today, and it becomes, therefore, the message of my peace pilgrimage. And that's the other thing I would really like to emphasize. The basic conflict in our world today is not between nations. It is between two opposing beliefs. The belief that you can overcome evil with more evil. And of course, those people are busy multiplying the evil. Now, this is the official position of every major nation in the world. This is the war way. And the belief, which is my way, and I'm sure it's your way, I'm sure many people relate to this, the belief that evil can only be overcome by good. That's the basic conflict in our world today.
Now, let an offering be taken to sustain and strengthen this place which is sacred to so many of us, a community of memory and of hope, for we are now the keepers of the dream. This church shares the proceeds of the offering plate donation every week to support important nonprofit organizations with which we work. This month, we are proud to support Tiny Hope Village, a nonprofit organization formed to provide a permanent housing solution for people who have experienced homelessness in the Bryan College Station, Hearn area. Please be as generous as you can. We give thanks for these gifts we have given, for those we receive, and for each other. May your generosity return to you tenfold.
Hi, I'm Deb Wilson, and this year I'm excited to be the chair of the Stewardship Campaign. The theme of this year's campaign is appropriately named, We Are Building a New Way, and Are We Ever? Construction is underway for our new church home. We have a new energetic full-time minister, an enthusiastic full-time director of religious education, membership, and outreach. I can't think of a more exciting time in our church's history. Katie Womack and Dina Imlay joined me on the Stewardship Committee, as well as Pam Johnson, President of the Board, and Pastor Kaya. This year, we hope to bring back the ever-popular cottage dinners. These dinners are always fun, and it allows us to gather in small groups. The conversation is always lively, and you're sure to find out something you didn't know about some of your dinner companions. Soon you will be receiving your stewardship package. Please take a moment to read the information about all the truly wonderful things this congregation is doing, about the religious education opportunities that are being offered, and how your contribution will help us move our vision forward. This is truly an exciting time in our church, and I can't wait to get started. Let's do this.
Please join me now in extinguishing the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we gather together again.